This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
What's going on, spectators? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast where everybody knows your name. I'm your I'll Be There For You host, Jake, alongside my Cause You're There For Me Too co-host, Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Man, that's a shot to the heart right off the bat, man. You couldn't save that till later on in the podcast. I mean, that's ripping off the Band-Aid, man.
I was feeling really emotional when writing the intro earlier today, and you know what? I just couldn't help but bring it up. So, unfortunately, we lost one of our friends recently, and it impacted a lot of people, including myself. So I had to express that.
Yeah, but it's also a good time to look in and take stock of your friends, right? So, Jake, you are my friend. I'll be there for you, man. Hopefully, you'll be there for me too.
And right back at you, buddy. If this is your first time joining us for Spec Tales, thank you for giving us a listen. Spec Tales is a comic book podcast that asks collectors and creators, what is your grail tale? Each week, we explore new stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
This week, we are very excited to be joined by, dare I say it, the most loved couple in comic podcasting. Every week, they refuel your love tank with the kindest words of affirmation on their show, Comic Book Couples Counseling. They are, of course, Brad and Lisa Gullickson. Thanks for joining us, Brad and Lisa.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us. Yeah. This is exciting. I've never been here before.
Your first time on,
No,
Lisa. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us, guys. And Jake had those nice words, and it's true. I mean, I wanted to say, the comic book power couple of the community, right? Is that fair?
You still said it. Yeah, of course. I think it matches. And Jesus and I are going to go out and definitely say that, to over 2 years ago when we were starting this podcast. I mean, I guess, as nice as you guys were like the mountaintop. You still are, but you guys were the ones, kind of looking at and being like, all right, they've got that part covered. What else is out there we can talk about with comics?
That's so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, that means a lot. It's funny when you're like, oh, you guys were the mountaintop 2 years ago when we were 3 years old. But I guess in 2 years,
2 years, that's a long time in podcasting years.
Long time. So we are we're the elderly in the podcast.
And congratulations to you guys too. We love watching you grow and you're building your brand. It's so fun.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we're, we love so much about Spec Tales is it is so focused in its conversation. And that's why I was when I knew this Skrull who had been on your show before,
Interesting.
when I learned that this Skrull who was a friend of mine appeared on Spec Tales and I wasn't on Spec Tales, I was like, I got to start messaging Jake and Jesus and be like, I want to come on this show. And I was like, and I'll bring this non-Skrull person who I'm married to.
Yeah, I don't know any Skrulls. Neither would I hang with one. Except for unless I would. Some of them are good. It's complicated.
Absolutely.
Very nuanced.
And if whether you're a Skrull listener or not, you may want to scroll back in the feed back to the summer when there were a few Secret Invasion episodes on Spec Tales, and there might have been some Skrull hosts. We are not going to disclose who that might be.
We can say that who one definitely wasn't.
It was not Brad.
It was not Brad.
It was not Brad.
Still salty.
Exactly. So we are here, though. We have both of you here. And one thing that I can tell you is none of the Skrulls that were on our show or hosted our show, none of them gave their grail tales, instructed to or not. And, so, Lisa, Brad, we are very excited to collect your Grail Tales this episode. Hopefully you guys are prepared.
We are?
We did our homework. Brad's is within arm's reach,
Yeah,
and
I'm
mine
fondling mine right
mine
now.
is in Mylar and in my heart. So
In Mylar, I didn't realize you guys had bags or boards. You guys, maybe one or two have snuck in.
yeah. They're hard to shuffle through when they're all floppy.
I love the reputation that we have built online that we have no Mylar bag comics, because that is true not. I've mostly broken him. He still has the Mylar impulse. And today we were going, I was like, oh, this is the comic I want to use for my Grail Tale. And I was like, do I need to have it? And he's like, no, I think it's just audio. And then I just tossed it on a table and he was like, no. You should have seen the way that Mylar bent, gentlemen. It was not good.
My sentimental value will not bend.
I am a child of the 90s,
He is.
right? So,
He
like,
is.
I came up in the speculator boom of like a Gen 1 comic book collecting. So, that's why I wanted desperately to be on Spec Tales.
Well, this is the place to talk about it. Before we get into the segments, Jesus and I definitely would like to briefly talk about comic book couples counseling, because beyond us, it being a mountaintop for us and things like that, we do want to talk to our listeners as well. It is hard for me to imagine that all of our listeners don't already know about your podcast, but we'd love to talk about it real briefly, because I think Jesus and I each have our own way that we sort of relate to it, or it connects to us. So I want to talk about that real briefly. So comic book couples counseling for me, and Jesus, I'm going to step in here and go first. I hope you don't mind. So I want to say that the reason that I really, really love the podcast and why it's kind of a must listen on my podcast rotation has to be it's because the relatability between Brad and Lisa. And when I listen to it, sometimes I'm hearing you guys don't give relationship advice, but you do break down relationships within comics. And early on, I immediately took some of those little notes and things home with me. And my wife was immediately like, who have you been talking to? What's going on? And when I was saying things, and it was incredibly relatable and something that I could apply. But here's the thing. As an example, more recently, the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode that you were discussing, getting ready for that impossibly cool panel that you hosted. And I'm hearing Brad talking about the way he's preparing and kind of cringing a little bit because some of it seems like a little off the cuff. And then Lisa chimes in. She's like, I want to write everything down and I want to take all, bullet points and everything. And me personally, I am literally reading from something I wrote earlier. That's how I want to time things out. And
we are soulmates. Brad, goodbye. No. Finally, somebody who writes things down.
But there's so much relatability, and that really does it helps me just enjoy the listening so much more beyond the connection with comics.
Yeah. That, I mean, our difference in that way, like, was tougher when we would earlier in our relationship, when we would try to do creative things together.
I mean, early in the podcast, it was more difficult. Like, I would actually say that within the last year, have we really become comfortable with the difference in which we prepare for a podcast episode.
Right. But it's just so important, like, whether you're a marital partner or a friend partner or a podcast partner, like, you have to give each other room to be yourselves. And
yes.
and I had to kind of let go a little bit in my controllingness and kind of take some beats from him, going like, I can be a little bit looser. I can be fun.
I agree. You have to be open to your other person's, your partner's point of view and how they do things differently. But part of that is also being open to the idea of maybe they've got some good tricks up their sleeve also. And maybe you could try or attempt some of their techniques to see how it does well with your techniques and find a new way of doing things.
And we're both the kind of people who can never do anything the exact same way twice. So we're
that's-
always changing and changing our strategies.
But isn't that just like life?
Yeah, that is life.
Constantly failing and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the variety of life.
Yes.
Well,
Spicy.
so some of the things that I wanted to say to you guys, and also just comment about it, because again, Jake, sees it differently, obviously, than I do, and I have 3 things I wanted to say that I'm glad that you guys are here. One, so I get a lot of the like camaraderie and just your flow and how you guys talk, and y'all don't talk over each other, and that's something that Jake and I have been kind of working on because we're like, I don't know, just awkwardness and stuff like that, and so that shows through and it leads to great conversations, which I really enjoy. Like I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts, and then secondly, I use you guys as research. We have somebody on that you guys have had on. I like your questions, your questioning, your strategies and stuff like that. And I like to piggyback and kind of go deeper, because sometimes when you're doing it the first time with somebody, like you don't get that, okay, we have to move on or we have to go to the next segment or what have you. But there's sometimes that just little extra that if you just had a little bit more time, and I'm hoping that I'm that little bit more time when I asked them, like, hey, you mentioned before that you said so and so or whatever. And I like to do that. So thank you guys for your great questions to the creators and a lot of the creators that we love. And then I know I'm doing a lot, but lastly, and this is with love, and I text Jake earlier. I said, man, is it me or does Brad have a Seth Rogen, like a scotch of that?
He gets that all of the time.
All the time.
People are always comparing him to celebrities. I never get that. I never get that.
Yeah,
Somebody once said I had squirrel girl energy, and it was capes on the couch, and I've just held on to that forever.
Yeah, I people love comparing me to celebrities. I get Seth Rogen all the time. In person, I have people say that I look like Nelson Franklin. They don't know who Nelson Franklin is, but they go like, "You look like that background guy from Scott Pilgrim." Or you look like the morgue technician from Captain Marvel. That's Nelson Franklin.
Yeah.
And yes, I do
he
look
does.
like
And
him.
guess what? Nelson Franklin, hot. Totally into him.
I'm happy to hear her say that. But thank you, Jesus. And I actually had Robert Richardson, the cinematographer behind Kill Bill, tell me that I needed to get in touch with Seth Rogen and get some sort of job with him. And I was like, well, if Robert Richardson says so. Anyway, name drop, the first of many this episode. But like what Jesus said about listening to our episodes and then piggybacking off of them, Lisa and I do the exact same thing.
We all do that. We all do that.
We have our favorite interviewers, and if they are talking to creators that we like, we go read those interviews. And then often when you're reading interviews or you're listening to podcast interviews, you'll hear an answer to a question and you'll immediately have a follow-up question. And oftentimes that's like where our podcast interviews begin, is with our follow-up questions that launched from somebody else's podcast or written interview. And we try to like name check those interviews when we do piggyback off of them.
Yeah. But then also we make sure that like we go into every interview with like genuine curiosity that springs forth from the actual story. Because on Comic Book Couples Counseling, we go like, the story exists to start a conversation, and the opportunity to actually talk back to the story and get more answers is just like such a precious thing. So we always want to make the story the center of the conversation.
You recently had Philip Kennedy Johnson on your podcast, and I was listening to that episode, and I have not read any of the Hulk comics yet. And I was like, I got to get on these Hulk comics because I found his perspective through your conversation so interesting on that character. And I'm excited to dig into those 5 issues.
And the no crosstalk, we have a tap system. So underneath the table when we're doing an interview, if I want to talk, I'll tap Brad twice. And if he wants to talk, he'll tap me twice. Then the other person will answer with a poke. And the poke will say, okay, you speak. Or if I don't have something to say, I'll go, okay, you speak. And then we have, I'm going to keep going. and then wrap it up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that you guys can do. You can see each other. We can see you. That's something you could do in the corner of the screen, and I don't think anybody would mind.
And we'll tell sometimes, not every time, but we'll tell our guests, like, if you see us doing weird gestures
under the table while we're interviewing you.
That's what's going on.
That's
so
what's
don't
going on.
freak out, Mr. Bendis.
Yeah. And we've gotten in tap arguments, like with Gene Lou and Young.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're like, no.
That was me. That was me.
Punching.
Yeah. So, but yeah, tap system. It's great.
That is something I had not thought about, but I think Jesus will agree is brilliant. We are going to have to.
Let's wrap it up,
give me
Jake.
that,
Come
Jesus. Yeah. We're going to have to think of some of our own hand gestures, and if I know Jesus, one of them may end up being a middle finger of some kind when he's displeased with my talking over him, because I am definitely the one guilty of talking over all the time. So
Same. That's me.
Well, good. I'm relating to both of you on so many levels. It's great. But speaking of, Jesus was giving me the wrap it up, and I know why he's doing that. That is because, guys, we need to get into our first segment.
Recent pickups.
That's right, the recent pickup segment. This is where we talk about something we recently read, picked up, collected, whatever it might be. This is where we're going to talk about it. And Jesus traditionally kicks us off. What do you have, Jesus?
All right. Well, I'm glad you asked me because I didn't know that was coming. Just joking. So I've been talking about this for past couple weeks. I don't know in order anymore because we're recording all funny. But the first one I want to talk about, and I got both I think A and B cover, because it just looks so awesome and the colors on them, is The Sacrificers. Just came out today. They're recording. I think it's today. So I'm on number 4. So that's I don't know, you guys can see that's one of the covers. Just a lot of blues on there. Really nice. Really cool looking. One of the main characters is right there. It's just really interesting. And then
this
other
is
cover.
the Rick Remender
Yes.
series, right?
Rick Remender. This is the other one with the other. I think she's a protagonist. We still don't know yet. Again, slow burn. He said he was going to do a slow burn on it from the beginning. Really interesting. Really locked into this story. Kind of see where it goes. There was some more that was revealed in this one, which was kind of expected, but at the same time not. So, Sacrificers. If you guys are not reading it, you guys 4 issues in. Y'all should pick it up. Something different. And then the next book. I don't know, man. This is for me. I don't know. It's kind of a balance that I'm trying to work out in my head on this. This was all over all the LCSs. I'm sure you guys have seen this. Unnatural Order #1 from Vault Comics. So one thing is it's everywhere because I think they're giving it away for free. One LCS that I went to, it's free if you have a pull box. If you don't have a pull box, it's $1. So, and it was just like they had a whole shelf for it by itself, along with some of the variants on it. It's a little bit thicker than normal, so they're trying to put a lot of story into it. So the thing that I wrestle my mind with is, I mean, it's marketing. Obviously, they want people to get it. They want people to read it. Either they're that confident in it, which they should be, I guess, if they're doing this, or sometimes they might be trying too hard. I don't know. That's kind of the balance in my head. The story so far is pretty good. Pretty good. It has a lot that it's working with. I feel like there was a lot of world building. And then the twist at the end was like literally left field. And at first I was like, what? And then I started kind of like, processing like, okay, I kind of see where it's going. It's something that doesn't belong. And you're like, this should not be here. But then wait, maybe it does. So I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys, even though I don't know when you guys will be listening to this, probably like a week later. But I mean, it was free or $1, at least for me. So you don't have much to lose if you pick it up. Just a little bit of time for reading. The artwork is awesome. There's a bunch of splash pages that are really cool in here. I want to see if I can take it out and show you guys. I thought it was pretty dope.
Jesus, what's the I guess what's the style, or what is the so it's
gorgeous.
Like fantasy or horror,
it's like,
or what
it feels Dungeons and Dragons-y. So
okay,
like fantasy. But again, it just feels that way. So
that splash page had like a little bit of an Andrea Sorrentino.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
Yeah,
like
vibe.
Gideon Falls.
Yeah,
there's another. Okay, like look at this one.
Yeah,
Rad.
I like this art.
Damn. Yeah, I like that a lot. So I did a quick Google search, and it over 137,000 copies ordered on that book on number 1. So that's that seems huge for Vault.
How come my shop didn't have that for me?
Yeah,
today?
I've never seen that before in my life.
137,000 copies. The chances that your shop didn't have one seems unlikely, Brad.
Yeah.
Trying to look for the
Shame
other
on me,
splash
probably.
page that I saw. That's pretty cool. Okay, here, this one. So this is another one that was like really cool to me.
Yeah, so it's kind of got a high fantasy vibe to it. I'm digging that.
But that's it. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right. And there's a twist ending. Is that what you're saying?
Twist ending. That's the the one that wants you to come back for issue 2, which I will come back to issue 2. I at least give stuff 2-3 issues before I say yes or no on it. This one is kind of, I'm leaning towards yes on it. I'm leaning yes on it.
Well, that twist, Jesus, is twisting my arm into giving you 3.5 tater tots here. 3.5 tater tots. I think it's a repeat from last week on the total number of tots that you've received, but I have to say, I think you are the most consistent tater tot receiver on this show. I mean, well done to you. Well played. 3.5 out of 5 tots is on a consistent level.
We're doing out of 5 now. I thought it was out of 3. I thought I was already over the.
Oh yeah. Well, for you, it's definitely you're.
Moving, Jake. The goalposts keep moving.
It's a glass ceiling, Jesus. You just got to break through it. All right. That brings us to our guests, Brad and Lisa. I don't know which order or which one of you is poking the other to go first, but I'll let you guys figure that out.
She's poking me. She's poking me. It's like, it's so hard to pick, like, okay, what's the book I'm going to highlight on Spec Tales that I'm loving right now? They're like, comics right now are so good.
Yeah.
There are so many titles I want to shout out, but I'm going to shout out a comic that is an undisputed masterpiece already. But at the same time, I don't think like everybody who goes into the LCS every month picks up the issue because they think, it's a well-established book with a firm fan base and it doesn't need any new readers. And that's just not true. This is one of my all-time favorite comic books. It's Usagi Yojimbo. The new series, Ice and Snow, brings Usagi Yojimbo back to Dark Horse Comics. They were hanging out with IDW for a little while, and I enjoyed the IDW run quite a bit, but Dark Horse is where I started reading Usagi Yojimbo, so having it back there just feels like going home. And I think there is a real opportunity with the first issue for new people to jump on board. Like, this is not new information, but you can pick up any Usagi Yojimbo comic and just start reading. Stan Sakai is maybe the most generous and friendly artist and storyteller in terms of new readership. It's astonishing that he can pull that off month after month. But you got a new number 1 with Ice and Snow. The second issue just dropped today, November 1st. And the second issue, like half of it is focused on Jay, which is like the supernatural arch enemy of Usagi Yojimbo. And he's been popping up here and there throughout the IDW run, like towards the end of it. You're like, ooh, Jay is back. This is exciting. And it looks like Ice and Snow is going to build up to a big clash between Miyamoto and Jay. And I'm frothing at the mouth for that to happen. And Jay is a character that was originally inspired by Jason Voorhees. And people do not know this, but that's why he's called Jay, because he is a supernatural stalker who is on a mission from he's the emissary of the gods, and he's been told to kill evil. And Miyamoto Usagi is that evil, and he is going to take his big old blade and cut Miyamoto in half. He is a silent stalking machine, just like Jason Voorhees. And we are getting some great violent, scary stuff from Jay in the second issue of Ice and Snow. And if you are listening to this podcast and you have known about Usagi Yojimbo probably your entire life, the 40th anniversary of the character is next year, but you have never picked up a book because you're like, I just don't, like that's a lot to catch up on. Don't worry about catching up on it. Pick up Ice and Snow #1, or just pick up Ice and Snow #2. You're good. Stan Sakai will catch you up. This book is as good as it's ever been by Usagi Yojimbo. And now I leave my soapbox.
He's always eager to get on that Usagi Yojimbo soapbox, and I stand by him because Usagi Yojimbo is great.
It's great.
It's so wonderful.
Yeah,
Stan Sakai is so wonderful.
I feel like you were talking to me directly because that's how I feel. Like there's so much out there about that character, and I do want to get into it because it's cool. It looks cool. And then also you were talking to Patrick. Is it Horvath or Hovarth?
Yes.
Yeah. And the little nuances that you mentioned of, you don't see bunnies, right? Like you don't see bunnies, or but you see other animals in there. So that, like I want to get into it. So I'm gonna take you up on that. I'm gonna pick up #1 and #2 to start there. That's my
that. And no pressure, Jesus. I am going to need you to message me when you start reading. And that's also for every listener. I'm at Mouthdork on Twitter.
He's volunteering to be your godfather into Miyamoto Usagi.
Absolutely. I will be your godfather.
Sponsor you.
I'm happy to be your Usagi Yojimbo sponsor. That is legit.
You're making an offer that we can refuse.
Yeah. You can't refuse it. But I just want to hear how people react to Usagi Yojimbo in 2023 picking up Ice and Snow for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm not a variant collector. I don't buy variants, but I'm suddenly buying all the Usagi variants. It's unlocked something in me, and I'm scared.
That's pretty awesome.
Just what Dark Horse wants.
Yes.
Okay,
Nice.
Jesus, you already named one of mine because you brought up Patrick Horvath. I think that Beneath the Trees, just the first 2 issues are out already.
No, the first issue's out. We've read the first 2 issues.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
We've read the first 2 issues. And it is so weird and dark and adorable. I was raised on children's books. Like, I know that sounds weird. Everybody was raised on children's books. Brad was not. He was like, Mom, I want to read The Stand. But I was reading like picture books until it was getting weird. Like, I loved storybooks. And I really loved Busy Town, which is Richard Scarry. And, but like, as you get older and you're reading children's books, you start to wonder about all of the dangers adults are warning you about, right? They say, hey, don't talk to strangers, don't wander off on your own, and it makes you wonder just like, why?
Cut all your candy open on Halloween because there could be blades
in
inside.
there. Like, who wants to do this? What is this? And so what Patrick is doing with Beneath the Trees is he's taking the children's storybook and he's peeling back the cuteness to look at the darkness underneath. So it's the story of a town that reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you guys are Gilmore Girl fans, but Sam is a bear who lives in a town that is not unlike Stars Hollow, very sweet, small community, and she is the community serial killer, and she doesn't want anyone to know because she's very efficient, she's very clean, she gets the job done.
And she kills outside her town.
Exactly. She goes into the big city to do big city
They're
things.
strangers.
And then you just go into the woods and you bury the person in parts, and not person, animal, I guess, but they're all people. We're all people. Put them in a bucket, bury them in the woods, beneath the trees, right? But then in that first issue, we discover that there is another serial killer in town that's going to cause the authorities to start poking around, and she doesn't want her dirty business exposed. So that is Beneath the Trees, and it is amazing.
It's also just straight up one of the most beautiful looking comics on the stands.
It's watercolor. It's all done by Patrick Horvath, which I love. I love a singular vision. And I just think that I love horror and I love cutes, and this gives me both, and I love it so much. And then I'm also going to throw in there, I'll give you a little bonus recommendation, but you're probably already reading it. Christian Ward's Batman City of Madness.
Yes.
The most beautiful, ephemeral art, and this Batman story that has been begging to be told since Batman Arkham Asylum from Grant Morrison. These are two books that are in conversation with each other. Christian brings it very much to the present, to the present state of the healthcare system, the present state of the conversation we are continuously having about Batman and what is his true responsibility to Gotham, how much is he the problem in Gotham, and then also Christian looks at the villains within Arkham Asylum with such a deep empathy that is like creative and poetic, and his take on Two-Face has just like cracked my brain open. And I've also read the first 2 issues of this, and it is blowing my mind. And I just want every Batman fan to read it, because I feel like we get stuck in our lanes with, this is the way that I think about Batman. And I really feel like Christian is taking us to a different level of introspection. Oh, and also underneath Gotham, there's a Batman with a squid face. Also that. So I have this horrible habit on comic book couples counseling to forget about the things people like about comics. Not everybody is there like, I want to find myself through Batman. Some people want punchy, fighty squid face. And there's also that. So if that's your thing, Batman. Let me recommend this really niche character. It is Batman.
I was gonna say, right before you said that, I don't know if I can say it after. No, I'm just joking. That actually adds to it. But like, comic books are such an awesome medium, and you can go from beneath the trees with watercolor that evokes this ephemeral, nostalgic, reading kids books, but also what you're supposed to be scared of. Like, I guess how it would be in this crazy universe or different universe is you scaring the kid, but this is why, they're telling the kid at the same time, and then you go to Batman, which is a character that's been around for 80 years or something, and how Christian Ward is doing something really cool and different and new with it. I have that book. I just haven't read it yet, and it's on my to read list. And I've been.
Your future is so bright right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited. I love his art. You can ask Jake. I've been talking about his art since Proctor Valley Road, and some of his variants on that, which was just amazing to me. I just love his artwork. So I think comic books. It's crazy because we hear about different sales numbers and this and you know what, there is something to that where the younger generations are going to manga and stuff like that. But man, comic books are in such a good spot right now. Like I'm happy to be where I'm at right now, to be able to read and enjoy these stories.
We're totally spoiled to live in the present in some ways, not in other ways. But like, I also think that we as a comic book community do have to have a continuous conversation about nostalgia and what nostalgia, how nostalgia traps us.
Yeah,
and
like
how nostalgia makes us lazy.
With a character like Batman, right? Like, there's like 20 titles. There's like 20 Batman titles every month, and some are so trapped in the past, and that's rad. Like,
that's cool too.
I don't mind. Like, I'm not anti nostalgia in any way, but then I think some of the titles that maybe are pushing the character and pushing the ideas in 2023 directions sometimes just don't get the focus that they do. So like even a Batman book that you're like, oh, Batman doesn't need any attention, but I think like City of Madness, I'm sure the sales are great on it, but I think more people should, even the people who are like, oh, I don't do Batman, you should check out what City of Madness is doing.
Yeah, for sure. But also, isn't it? It's a wider format, right? It's a different format.
It's treasury size. It's a little more expensive.
So pretty.
Yeah.
You can just wrap it around your shoulders and just snuggle it. It's such a great size.
Yeah. The problem to me with that, because we had that problem too with the Catwoman book with Cliff Chiang.
So good.
So good.
Yes, it was really good, and we enjoyed it. But there's so many people that chose not to get it because of the size, and I'm like, you're getting more of the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
No, this is how you do it. Look, okay, I get it. I get like Lisa doesn't get that because she reads like City of Madness and then she goes and throws it on the couch. And then I capture it in midair, then I'm Mylar bag it. But like you start buying a few Treasury editions from DC, like the Black Label Treasury editions are so great, like Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, like the Lonely City, so many good stuff. And then now you have a little bit of a collection. So now you do have to invest in some magazine-sized Mylar bags. But once you do that, now
the world is your oyster.
Go back in time and start buying Creepies and Eries and Savage Swords of Conan's. Like there are so many great back issues in that format, and you need a magazine box.
You just have to have one.
Just gotta get one.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. And I was gonna chime in on the exact same thing. Anybody out there who is a little put off because of the size of the book, we are here telling you to buck up.
Size matters.
Yeah, size. No, size does not matter. Go to the shelf, pick it up. Yes, Brad. It doesn't matter. It's a great book, and anybody who brings back the Court of Owls is great in my book. I'm a huge Court of Owls fan.
Yes. It's not about the size of the bag. It's about the motion of the ocean.
I'm not sure where we've taken this.
Bag it, board it.
Yeah, keep that thing bagged.
And respect it.
All right. So for the Brad Stein, for the most colorful recent pickup between both Brad and Lisa, and I'm counting you as a duo, but also individually.
Ooh.
We are different people.
You are different people, so you get individual scores, but the scores add together.
Oh, nice!
And you are going to get a total of 8 tater tots.
Nice.
Most ever distributed on the show. Jesus is wondering how he's never been blessed with this many tater tots, and one day you'll get there, Jesus. Everybody does.
I want to thank you both so much for this opportunity. We could not be more proud. 8 tater tots is a good number of tater tots. That is like a pocket full of tots.
It is.
Thank you so
much.
It
is. Napoleon would be proud of the pocket full of tots.
Yes, pocket full of tots.
For sure. But that would now, we have yet to decide the winner of the recent pickups Tater Tots because I have still yet to go. And so I'm going to reveal mine, and I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to start with the one I had to pivot slightly because I received a recent pickup this evening, approximately 30 minutes before we started recording.
This is hot off the presses.
Yes, I like very, very, very new. But I'm going to go with the one that I was originally going to go with, and then I'll circle back to the one that I just got. And this is not exclusively because of you, Brad, but I will say that you have been an inspiration of sorts. Now, I know what you're thinking. In your gut, you're probably like, oh my God, Usagi. But don't go quite that far. But I
saw a peek of the comic. I saw it.
Oh, you saw the peek. Okay, so this, I finally finished it. I want to follow up with everybody who's been following along on our social medias and kind of poking me. Hey, did you read? How did it go? Things like that. This is Hellboy Omnibus Volume 1. So when we talked to Philip Kennedy Johnson, he said, you need to read this Hellboy book. And I said to myself, I've read a little bit of Hellboy. I think I even got for one of the movies, like one of the Dark Horse, they were distributing like special movie edition of copies of the books. But I've never read Hellboy altogether. And I have a certain OCD that tells me I cannot jump in just whenever. I know, Brett, I know you're promising that you can do that with a lot of it. It's so hard for me. So I had to start somewhere. So I got Omnibus number 1, Seed of Destruction. And I just finished it actually last night, all whatever, 300-400 pages, almost 400 pages. And it is I've got the next book. I've already got it ready. And I'm going to go and read that maybe later tonight. I don't know, but it is just as good as I remember the individual little, like when I was reading this, I've definitely read some of this before. I just don't remember when or where. And I certainly don't have the books anymore. This one, though, puts it all together, and I can kind of see the progression of the character over time. And I know this isn't exactly in sequential order, but they've assembled it in this way. So I imagine this is how Mike would want people to read it. in this order.
In that first volume, that it includes Wake the Devil.
Yeah, let's it includes Seed of Destruction, The Wolves of St. August, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, it's the best one.
The Chained Coffin, Wake the Devil, and Almost Colossus.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's all rad. I love all of that stuff. It only gets better.
That's good because I'm continuing the journey, and my LCS owner John is actually Hellboy is his favorite. He's also
nice.
He's been along your side, Brad, not knowingly, of course, but telling me to read Hellboy. And so when I ordered this, he said, "I'll have the second one ready for you. Let me know." And I literally,
Nice.
so he's got them all. He always keeps them in stock, and he likes to get a couple because sometimes they'll go out of print and then he can't get them anymore. So I'm excited about that. Really enjoy it. Also recommending it to everybody out there who has not read Hellboy. Now, I am reading in the order that the omnibus tells me to read in, I guess. But from what there's a lot of these stories that you could just jump in and read in, all on their own. And I don't think, as long as you have a background for who Hellboy is, I don't necessarily think you're going to miss out at least from what I've read thus far.
My first Hellboy collection was the Chained Coffin, which at the time I think was like the third trade paperback. I randomly picked it up in a Borders bookstore, and it changed my life. And it was easy to follow. You go back, you read Seed of Destruction, Wake the Devil, but it was the Conqueror Worm. Once that story happened, where I was like, oh, this is one of the greatest comics ever made. So I'm excited.
I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm going to have to get there. So thank you for the recommendation and constantly pushing good comics on your socials and everywhere else. So to my next comic that I received just this evening, and I've not done anything like this before because I don't usually receive things like this, but I will show you now. So this is a comic, not really a comic per se. I guess this was made by my daughter. She knew that I was prepping for this episode, and I was, getting my things together, writing a few notes, and she came up and she said, or she went outside and she boxed this up. She stole like I have a USPS boxes in my office, and she came up, stole it. She packaged this up and she put it on our front doorstep, and she came upstairs and said, "Dad, you got a package." And so I went out to my front door, picked it up. She had taped it closed. She stole my tape. And then I opened it up, and this is what was inside. And I'll just read you a snippet because there are notes all over it. And here, this is a good part. "You are the light and sunshine of my life." And then she said, "The book of my loving dad." Aww. And then the front side says, "The best comic you'll ever get." And then the back says, "You have watched me grow, and now I'm 9, and I have loved you since 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. This is my love." So this comic is the first. She taped it all together herself. This is the first of its kind, the only of its kind that I have received, and I wanted to highlight it. And I told her I would highlight it, and she was. I put it in a Mylar bag, and she said, "I finally made a comic," and so she was absolutely adorable. So I also said I would talk about it, and it made a whole lot of sense. And as Lisa would say, this absolutely filled my love tank for the evening. So I couldn't not bring that up.
That's
a pretty good
so cute. I'm feeling really, really terrible about how many tots that's going to get, because it's going to be so many tots, and then we're going to have to be in second place.
It's not a competition, Lisa.
Not with comics like that,
Jake. Well, here's what I'll say. Guys, and Brad and Lisa, you guys are in this too now. You guys actually probably witnessed the first time Jake's ever actually won one of these, because you can't beat that. Everything else before this, we all know what's going on. It's a sham. It's all this. I didn't say that. People are saying that. I don't even say that. We get messages all the time. You actually won that one. But what, Jake?
We do not.
This one, we get them all the time, Jake. We get them all the time. But this one, you guys are witnesses to the first time Jake can lay claim to actually winning fair and square.
I don't know though. Mignola, Like the Mignola, Jake can still win, but Mignola.
I don't know. We won't know for certain until we hear how many tots Jake got.
That's true.
Well, for the first time in tot history, even though this is only out of 5 tots, I have received. I've just received a note here, that I have received 10 tater tots.
Oh my God.
For my recent pickup this week, and I'm just as shocked as everybody else. Jesus is flabbergasted once again to have been
I'm just
beaten
texting
by
powers that
Jake.
be. I'm just texting the powers that be right now. Like, this is uncalled for.
Oh,
It's
I
ridiculous.
had no idea.
Where's my appeal? Where's my appeal?
I had no idea they made a middle finger emoji, Jesus. Thanks for that.
Oh, you're getting your tap system going.
So, guys, this was a little bit of a longer journey for the recent pickup segment, but we've come through it, and we're all better for it. So, thanks for joining us. But once we finish the recent pickup segment, there is only one place we can go.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
That is right, the Grail Tale segment. And this is the one where Jesus and I really do like to kick our feet up. We'll get some mojitos or whatever Jesus likes to drink. And we're going to let you guys take the mics. So what do you guys have?
Oh gosh. Do you want to go first or should I go first? Or
I can go first.
Okay.
I can go first.
Okay, fine.
I'm
here for this segment.
Yeah.
Like I'm here to brag.
Okay, you can go first.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
now I feel
Nope.
self-conscious because I
Nope.
thought I was being generous by going first.
No, you
So
can
that
be
you can be
generous.
the
No,
grand finale.
no, you go first still.
Yep.
Disappointed.
So, my Grail Tale is it is Silver Surfer 200 by Dan Slott and Mike Allred. And the reason is because if you turn to the back matter, to the letters page, there's a picture of me in my Don Greenwood cosplay. And yeah, so it was either the second or the third year we went to San Diego Comic-Con. I was like, I'm going to do it. I am going to cosplay. And I had cosplayed before, the year before. I had gone as one of the Monkey Men, if you know the Monkeys TV show from 1968. I was like, I'm going to do the most niche cosplay. So literally only one Klingon recognizes the character that I am being. And they're like, you're Mike Nesmith. I'm like, yes, I am. And so I was like, let me go for a much wider known character, Don Greenwood. And the reason is this: when I read that comic, we were reading it in floppies as it was being released. And I just loved the idea of Don Greenwood as a superhero sidekick because she had literally no other superpowers other than, hey, I'm here to help. Like, she zooms around the universe with the Silver Surfer, who is super empowered, and she still feels like, hey, I have things to do. I can take part in your heroism, and she does it in every single issue. They are true partners. And so I have no skills. Like, cosplaying is such like a skilled endeavor. People acquire all of these materials and they're building stuff. I don't have any of that. But my mother, for the church, she sews all of the baptismal garments. Like, like when a baby gets baptized, my mom sews baptismal garments. And so it's like, my mom has a sewing machine. So she sewed the little polka dot dress, and we made it like a separate collar for it. And I got the wig and the whole thing. And then I was Don Greenwood without a Silver Surfer, by the way, a contextless blue-haired woman in a ladybug outfit.
Everyone thought you were miraculous.
Yeah, the miraculous ladybug. And I, like a true comic book fan, was like, I love correcting people. And I just corrected people all day long. It felt great. And then we were walking through the sales pavilion, and there was someone cosplaying as the Silver Surfer, like a super buff individual who had painted himself, and he had the surfboard and the whole thing.
Todd,
that's right, of Live Long in Cosplay. And so I was like, Brad, we have to get a picture. And so I ran up there. I'm like, I'm Don Greenwood. And he's like, he looked at me like, I have no idea who that is because all I've read is the Kirby stuff, I'm guessing. But so I'm standing like awkwardly far away because he's a buff stranger. And Brad takes the picture and we walked away and I was like, and he showed me the picture. I was like, well, that looks like trash. I'm not sharing that. That's a terrible picture of me. And then I was like, do. And Brad's like,
but I share the photo because you can't not share that photo. So, and I shared it and I tagged all the creators and Tom Brevoort, the editor on the book. And yeah. So,
and so then we got an email or no, a direct message from Alana Smith.
Yeah.
Who was
assistant editor
on the book. And she was like, hey, can we use your picture in Silver Surfer comic? And I was like, hell yes. And she's like, well, I have to get your consent and the consent of the Silver Surfer cosplayer who was a stranger.
Yeah, in a sea of 300,000 Comic-Con attendees.
And so I was like, okay, I can do this.
Not a problem. And also, this is at night now that we're talking to Alana. The day is over.
So the next day comes and my eyes are peeled.
I had some faith because we had seen Todd the year before cosplaying as Captain Planet. And the dude is jacked to a point where he stands out in a crowd.
So I might not be able to recognize his face, but those abs, I was like, I'm going to recognize.
They were not painted on?
Torso. No, indeed. I mean, I didn't run my hands down them.
I did.
But I imagine it would feel like one of those old, like, laundry scrub things.
Yeah, it felt like that.
But anyway, so finally, I was like, Brad, look at that Iceman over there.
This is days later. This is like 2 days later in San Diego in the convention center.
And there he was.
There he was as Iceman.
Yeah. And I was like, and I ran up, and this is an exclusive. I've told this story before, but I never included this detail. I really had to pee when I saw this man, and I was like, okay, now that I have two urgent things. And so I chased this individual down and we made a little video and I was like, hi, I'm Brad Gullickson. And he's like, hi, I'm Todd, last name, I don't remember. And we were totally in that picture and we give our consent to be in a Marvel comic. And so it came to pass.
And then I also had to give my consent as the photographer.
So yeah, Brad's name is in there too. And yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
And then we didn't know it was going to be in Silver Surfer 200. And so like to have Lisa's Don Greenwood in the back of that book and my name in that book, it's the only time my name's appeared in a Marvel comic. And it happens to be Silver Surfer 200.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a lifetime highlight.
Totally wild. Yeah. And just at this past NYCC, we finally got it signed by Dan Slott. We still got to get Mike Allred, but it was really, really fun and special. And it was like I walked up to him with my page open, and I was like, "Look, Dan Slott, this is me." And he's like, "Do you want me to sign this page?" And I was like, "No, you can sign the front."
Yeah, and also Dan Slott's like, "Yeah, I know. I've been on your podcast, guys."
He's like, I know who you are. Couples counseling, and I was like, "I know, but do you know? Do you know that we're the same person?" And and he did. Yeah. I condescended to one of my heroes.
I gotta tell you, I really wish I went first.
Yeah, I know. I know. That's okay. Now, yours is really, really cool, though.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, and unfortunately...
We're out of time.
Yeah, we are out of time, Brad. We'll have to come back and get you on the next one. I'm just joking.
It's a quickie. He's fast.
Only when talking about comic books. Oh my God, Lisa.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. So I tell my Grail Tale now?
Your Grail Tale.
Is this the time?
Yes.
They're good.
Yes.
Your jaws are going to drop.
The floor is yours,
okay,
Brad.
thank you. You know, like, there's, you know, like I'm coming on to Spec Tales. You really want to, like, you know, lay down your collection and be like, yo, check this out. This is what we got. This is how I got it. Like, at the same time, you know, like, do I have an interesting story of how I got Avengers #4? You know,
Mm.
no, I got it. You know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. It pales in comparison to Lisa's story. But to have a Jack Kirby totem, that's pretty darn special.
cool.
But I'm not going to tell that story.
Nope, that's not his grail.
That's not to tell.
Not today.
We could talk about the first comic book convention I ever went to in 1993, and I waited hours in line to get Amazing Spider-Man number 300 signed by Todd McFarlane, and he refused. And then my father made him. We could tell that story,
It's a great story.
but we won't. Todd McFarlane was actually pretty nice. They had like this. It was like when Spawn 2 had just come out, the second issue of Spawn, and they were only signing Spawn comics, and they were like no Marvel stuff. But I had brought Amazing Spider-Man 300 in a briefcase, in my father's briefcase, to get signed, and I was like, "But can't you?" And then Todd signed it after my dad's like, "My son's getting his Spider-Man book signed." That's not the Grail tale either.
No,
What a hell of a story.
I know.
I want to tell the story of not a comic book in my collection, but a short story collection in my collection. It is Harlan Ellison's Edgeworks Volume 2, which contains Spider Kiss and Stalking the Nightmare. Why am I talking about this book? Are you guys familiar with Harlan Ellison, the writer?
I've heard the name. I'm drawing a blank.
He's like a really rad science fiction, primarily a short story writer, but he wrote on TV. He wrote some Outer Limits. He wrote one of the best Star Trek episodes ever made, probably the best Star Trek episode ever made, City on the Edge of Forever. There's a great Notorious story about that. He wrote one of my favorite stories, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and A Boy and His Dog, which was turned into a really strange Don Johnson film directed by L.Q. Jones. Highly recommend all of his stuff. Anyway, this one has his short novel, Spider Kiss, in it. And I own every Ellison book, and I own multiple versions of Ellison books. I started reading him when I was in middle school, and he had a profound impact on my imagination, and he passed away recently, like 2 years ago. Right before the pandemic. I can't remember, but anyway, before the pandemic, after his passing, for sure. Yeah, that's right. So Lisa and I went to San Diego Comic-Con, and we had a great time at San Diego Comic-Con, and we took like an extra day to drive up to Los Angeles. And Lisa wanted to go see
Put Your Hands Together, which is a stand-up show, or was a stand-up show, R.I.P.
At the UCB Theater in LA. And we were waiting in line. It wasn't going to start for a while. So I walked into a used bookstore next door, and we're looking around, and Lisa goes over to like the autographed book section, and she goes, "Brad, there's an Ellison book here." And I never met Ellison, and I don't really like buying autographs unless I've had an interaction with the person, right? Like I don't like pay extra to have, I don't know, like a Captain America shield signed by Chris Evans. It's just not my thing. And I was like, "Oh, cool, there's a Harlan Ellison book signed. I've seen those before. He did a lot of signings." And I don't remember if you pulled it off the shelf.
I pulled it off
You
the
pulled
shelf.
it off. But did you see?
Yeah, and I turned to you and I go, could this possibly be real?
Yeah, could this be real? And so I open it up, and it says, it's a personalized copy. For Stan, the core of the plan, Lee, longtime friend, sweet man, partner in foiling the dark forces, with affection, your pal, Harlan. And it is a signed copy of Spider Kiss Edgeworks by Harlan Ellison to Stan Lee.
Wow.
And
Hold on, I've got to sit down.
And it's dated October 25th, 2003, Los Angeles. And again, it's signed twice by Harlan Ellison. And they were selling it for $70.
Dang.
And
how did this end up in this bookstore?
Well, it was after Lee had passed away this year. Who knows if they,
Unloaded it before or after?
Unloaded before or after his passing. What does this book mean, or what did this book mean to Stan Lee? I have no idea. I know that Stan Lee and Harlan Ellison had some interactions. I don't know if they were actually close friends or not. But at some point, Stan Lee was either at a Harlan Ellison signing, or one of his lackeys was at a Harlan Ellison signing and got a book signed to Stan Lee by Ellison, and then it ends up in this LA bookstore.
Yeah.
Man. So I don't know. Just a couple reactions real quick. That's amazing. That's like serendipity, and it's crazy to me. I remember reading that Stan Lee unauthorized like biography, and it mentioned that he had dinners with other writers that were outside of comic books, and he always felt less than in those dinners because he felt that comic books weren't as prestigious, I guess, as novel or short story writers, but he did entertain them. So I'm wondering if that was something that he entertained, and he came over and he said, "Hey, here's the book that just came out, or my short story novel, or whatever." But it's so crazy to man, it's just cool. It's just cool, and
it's wild.
Oh my God, I'm so dumbfounded by how you found this book. I am also slightly jealous, and in all the best ways, though. Like, it's incredible to me. And the first thing that comes to my mind is not, is it real? Which I understand why you would say that, right? The wonder in me is immediately just validating your story and saying that's Stan Lee's book and that's real. That's not a fake. And it tells me that book was once on Stan Lee's shelf and
in his hands.
Collected dust on Stan Lee's shelf.
Yeah, and
Stan Lee's dust was on that book.
And I've licked it all off, don't worry. It's definitely signed by Ellison. Like, I've seen lots of his signatures. I've seen his sort of block lettering. It's definitely signed by Ellison. And so for me, it's definitely signed by Ellison to Stan Lee. And like, the question is, was Stan Lee present when he got the signature? I would love to know more.
Yeah, like, to me, like, my skepticism wasn't like it's a cruel world and people are trying to dupe nerds, but like, it was just like an utter disbelief because, like, you know, it's not like he signed 2 to Stan Lee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he signed this one.
Yeah, so like, and you don't expect like something like that to be so like literally like walk up to the shelf, the first thing you pull off, and like, it shouldn't be. Something this special shouldn't be this attainable, but there's these little magic pieces of magic out there all of the time. So it's just like,
I think back to, I think 1990 was like the first time I ever bought a comic book. And that's probably also when I started collecting comic books. And you think about like all the, like the random finds you discovered in dollar bins and, back issues. And you're like, they're selling this for how much? Oh, what a score. And you have lots of little like, discoveries. Oh, this is actually signed by, Neil Gaiman. And they put it in the $2 bin at, Richard McKay's used books. That's ridiculous. But this is like the king of that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For us anyway.
And yeah, for us. And like, that's the thing too, is it's, as a massive, lover of Stan Lee and as a massive lover of Harlan Ellison, I had no idea that they ever would have crossed paths.
Man.
And here they are. And I got the book.
Yeah, that's so like, I'm trying to think of what would be similar for me. I think maybe Ted Chiang, the story of your life, if he signed that over to Stan Lee somehow, or maybe even a Cormac McCarthy book, which that might be
there
out
might
there
be
somewhere.
a couple of those.
Yeah. So if you guys see those in the shelf somewhere, man, DM me and we'll figure it out.
And it is, we're East Coasters. We're from Washington, D.C. We've got some great used bookstores. But it is fascinating when you go to L.A. and you just go like, well, this is like the most L.A. used bookstore find.
Very much so, but still, like, oh man, that's really
pretty cool. That's awesome.
It's definitely my prized possession.
It as it should be, and the story behind it is, or the I don't know, the imaginative, like, because in both our heads, I'm sure you're making up the story in your head as much as it was like the Jesus's little details about how they might have done a dinner.
Yeah,
like, to me, like, this was there's so much more to that story, and we get to make up it in our own heads.
Like, I would love to write a play where like the climax of the play is the signing of this book.
Did you watch the John Cusack movie Serendipity?
Yes.
Yes.
It's just like that.
Yes, it is the gloves. But well, so both we are so lucky that we don't do tater tots for the Grail Tale segment, Jesus, because I think I would have lost.
Yeah, well, not only that, but Lisa, we didn't even get to like properly.
Oh yeah, exactly. Lisa was in a comic book.
Yeah, like, but not only that, like, I feel that's so cool because you weren't trying to be in a comic book. You were just trying to do, a character that you really enjoy and like as a cosplay, and also the courage to do the cosplay, and also why is it that cosplays, at least I feel the same way you do. Like, I like deep cuts. So I'm going to be a character that is very, like, only the real people know who this character is going to be. Right. So that, because you were able to take that courage and you took that chance, it got you to a milestone comic book inside of which is, it's just awesome all around.
Yeah, no, I highly, if you are cosplay shy, as I am, it hasn't sparked this like passion in me where I'm cosplaying every year. Like, if you have even the slightest inclination, a deep cut is so fun because nobody stops you to take your picture, and you have all of the fun of being in a costume.
And then when the one person or the two people do stop you, it's suddenly like, well, let's exchange social media contacts because now we're besties.
And also, like, I'm a stand-up comedy nerd, and I was walking through the floor, and I ran into Wyatt Cenac. Do you know Wyatt Cenac? He's a stand-up. He's hilarious, and he had some show about aliens coming out.
I forget what it was called.
And I was like, oh my God, Wyatt Cenac. I'm such a huge fan. He was like, hey, Don Greenwood. And I was like, fuck yes. Am I allowed to swear? You can bleep it out.
Yeah. Yeah, all good. We don't usually tell anybody no.
That's kind of a way to that's kind of a way to kind of like meet your tribe, huh? If they know who that character is, right? Like, you're kind of like weeding out. That's pretty cool. So I'm gonna start.
Still coming out too. Like, so it means like Wyatt Cenac is reading comics right now.
That's pretty interesting.
I think that in so many cases we just went to a con in Dallas where I had personally never been to a con. I'm from Nebraska. It's a little bit of a ways to travel sometimes, and I've never made the trek. And this was my first, I'll say, real con. Like, I've been to small gatherings of humans where comic books are sold and collectibles are sold and things like that, but never where like celebrities are showing up and there's cosplay going on. And it was a ton of fun. And I can't imagine putting myself into the costume to be on display, so to speak, where I immediately was, we took photos with some of them and it was really cool, but also like nerve-wracking for me personally to just go and ask for a photo. We saw One Punch Man and I was just like, act like you're punching me. I need to be, and we were like trying to figure out like, how do you get that action? We should have just taken a video. That probably would have worked. Cameras do that, right? So the for me, the anxiety of dressing up would be probably the equivalent for you, Lisa, but also the deep cuts, amazing. And so the two, and then the fact that you ended up in a comic book at the end of the story is not just icing on the cake. It's just, it's like adding ice cream to cake.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the ultimate birthday party, treat.
Like the thing about that story is like, yeah, we weren't trying, Jesus, to get into a comic book, but then it was like, do you want to be in a comic book? And then we were trying real hard to get into a comic book.
Look at everyone's abs.
Yeah, find this needle in a haystack.
Have you seen these abs? Please contact us.
We travel around with 30 friends, and we messaged all of them. We're like, this is what he looks like. If you see this dude, text us and we'll come running.
Yeah.
But we found him.
We found him.
Well, and Lisa, just a quick question to follow up. How was, clearly he said, yes, well, I'll be a part of this. What was his reaction to when you said, hey, Marvel wants to know if we want to be in their comic? Was there disbelief? Was he like...
He didn't even stop walking. So in the video, he and I was like, hey, I have this, this thing. And he's like walking through the sales pavilion. And so the video is like the most frantic thing of us, like, just like walking. Like, I don't know if we've never spoken again.
Like, so we tagged him and we let him know because he was Live Long in Cosplay on Instagram. I don't even think he's publishing posts anymore, but we messaged him and stuff and we just never heard
he
back.
Never spoke to us again. I hope he's still on this planet. I hope he's not dispersed out in the universe.
Maybe it was Brad washing his clothes on his abs. That
he's clearly working out.
We know what he's up to.
Yeah, we know what he's up to by looking at him. It's not eating carbs, that's for sure.
God, pizza is so good.
So good.
All right, man. Well, we don't distribute tater tots, but I feel like we have to at least say that was in like a 5-star tots rating for both of you. If we were to distribute tots, you would each have 5 stars. Personally speaking, I would say that I would probably lean into a little bit more of Brad's, not to be like,
yeah, no, I get it.
Like Brad, I think that the imagine it, like I'm literally going to fall asleep tonight dreaming up a story for that book and how it got there. So I favored Lisa on a lot of things earlier, but I got to go with Brad on this one. I think.
Nice.
Just truth.
Yeah. Compare and despair.
But equally good in so many ways.
That's right. I'm
she
somebody's
owns
favorite.
half of it.
I do. And you know what? If anything happens, I'm taking it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you should. Put it on the.
I'll rip it in twain like King Solomon. Cut the book in half.
If Brad trips and falls in front of a bus next week, everybody knows that Lisa really wanted that book.
Oh man,
that Grail tale.
This got really dark. We need to lighten the mood with some comic book speculation.
Speculation.
Now, I will full on admit this might be the segment I was looking forward to most, simply because we've had small conversations, and from what I've gathered from you two, both through social media and potentially a random scroll who hosted the episode, speculation is not necessarily your guys' jam. It's not your jelly. You guys aren't
we're sentimental
thinking
fools
on this. Yeah, you don't bag and board. So
yeah.
And I infamously said last week that this is not your guys' game, but we're making you play ours. So we are here to play the game. Now, the good news is we participate in this particular segment, unlike the Grail Tale where you guys were on your own. So Jesus is going to show you the way.
Okay.
Jesus, what do you got?
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. So please take this with a grain of salt. Staying in our theme of Halloween in the October month that we love to extend into as far as November as we can, I'm going to continue that theme. And looking into Golden Age, I started thinking about certain things, certain characters, certain public domain, which we've talked about, which has kind of been coming up a lot. And recently a book came out and I thought it was very interesting. I still haven't read it, but it's by James Tynion called Dracula. And I really want to get his take on it, right? So I'm sure it's going to be interesting. Yeah, see, he has it there in front of him. Jake does. But I started wondering, what's the first appearance of Dracula? And we all know, Marvel Comics, I think is like Tomb of Dracula #1. I think that's the one that people go for. But I'm talking about in comics. So I did a little bit of research, not too much, but a little bit of research. But it was in the Golden Age. So there's 2 of them. One is in Comic Capers #1 from 1944, and it's a cartoonish version of Dracula. So it's not necessarily the Dracula that we know, or I guess you'd want. I don't know, but that's still the first appearance of a character type Dracula there. And then the second one is Kid Eternity #4, which is Bram Stoker's version of Dracula, the first appearance of that in comics. Yellow cover, really cool. Really, I mean, it doesn't have like any of the checklists that we talk about for Golden Age books, but it's still a bright yellow cover and a first appearance of a Dracula. Now, these books aren't too, I guess, expensive to get. I mean, they range from $50 to 550, or from $80 to 900 for Kid Eternity. But at the same time, I mean, these are Golden Age books. These are first appearances of Dracula, which, I mean, there's so many takes on Dracula. He's public domain. There's so many different things. He's not going anywhere, and those books are just going to get older and more rare because they're scarce to begin with, Golden Age books. So those are my two speculation books for you guys. Dracula, the first appearance of him in comic books, and there you have it.
Thank you very much for that, Jesus. I will step in here real quick and just say, while I like the picks, to me, Frazetta's Dracula is kind of my that's where I lean to when I want to collect a Dracula. And I got to say, I think there are multiple versions of Dracula from Frazetta.
I was going to say
creepy number 7, which we mentioned last week. But I think it's creepy number 3 or 4. I believe also has a Dracula cover.
Well, what's the first time he's done Dracula? Which was the
that
first
I don't
time?
know. See, there's another potential spec pick.
I'll look that up for you. I'll get it to you. I'll find it.
I would appreciate that. So, all right, cool beans. Brad or Lisa, do one of you brave souls want to go first?
I'll go first.
Oh,
I'll go first
interesting.
since I was not brave enough last time. Like I was anticipating this conversation as well because comics have never made me money and will probably never make me money. They only cost me money. We have some fun comic books in our collection, but we don't really. I mean, we don't buy back issues
we don't think of them as investments other than like emotional investments.
Yeah. And anytime I've ever tried to be like, you know what, I'm going to make some serious buck off of this, it ends up being like, Magnus number 12, the first appearance of Turok. It's worth almost nothing anymore. But I spent so much money on that book. Is it Magnus 12? Anyway, it's one of those. But I've noticed something in the last year that I wish wasn't going on, but I should have known it was going on. I wish I had started collecting these comics just a year ago instead of right now. But since the Energon universe has hit, the Robert Kirkman, Skybound, Void Rivals, shared universe with Danny Warren Johnson's Transformers, and Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley's Duke. Since those books were announced, G.I. Joe books and Transformers books from the Marvel era have really risen in price. And I now, because of my excitement around the Energon universe, I want to fill up my G.I. Joe collection. And it's going to cost me some serious money to do so. And I think if you want those books, I think they're only going to, at least in the short term, go up. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be a good time to be buying some of the key issues of G.I. Joe, as long as the excitement around the Energon universe is high. Now, if that were to drop, I'm sure they would all drop, and I've just directed you into wasting some money. But when it does drop, can you send them my way? Because I need all of them.
Brad will pick them up from you when you no longer desire to keep them. And I do, Lisa and Brad, I don't want to cut you off. Brad, are you good on that?
Yeah, I'm good on that. I'm good on that.
You feel satisfied with that?
I'm satisfied.
Lisa, you mentioned the investment side of it, and Jesus and I will generally say it's not, we certainly don't advocate calling it investing, because there's real things out there that's called investing. But in many cases, Jesus and I have used the sale of a book or two to help us pay. We're both still very much in the hole here, as far as comic books.
That's not what your mansion background says to us.
Well, thank you very much.
That's a real big penny.
But
the cave, the cave looks so much better with the penny next to the T-Rex. But I will agree that it can occasionally cross into a quote unquote investing realm when could be potentially spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
We have flipped books.
Yeah, we
flipped books.
Yeah.
Brad sold his Walking Dead for our honeymoon.
Yeah. And I sold my 60s X-Men's for a vacation once.
And he regrets it every day.
I wish I
He
had done
literally
it.
has photos on his phone that he just kind of looks at sometimes.
Yeah, I took photos of them before I flipped them, and I did. And they're in a folder. They're in a special folder, and I go, "These were once mine." I look at them,
man. So
I do things.
There's a couple of things.
Bag it, board it. Very important.
That you mentioned. So one, definitely the G.I. Joe and the Energon universe. I'm excited about it. I started reading it. I started reading Void Rivals. I'm enjoying it right now. But also, obviously, Kirkman, has ties to, at the very least, the small screen. And who knows? I mean, if that, starts picking up steam, they will go up. But also, we always talk about an investment standpoint, but I also like to think about it as well in this aspect, where somebody that enjoys G.I. Joe, get them now before that happens, because then at that point,
Jesus, I'm trying.
Yeah, because if you're trying to read them, or same thing, Walking Dead, right? Like Walking Dead is kind of down right now. Stuff like that. Like if you enjoy those and you think they have a potential for in the future more people finding out about it, and then they go up in price, and then you get priced out of it, then that obviously sucks. So get them now before they go up in price. So yeah, there's two ways to look at it. And there's multiple ways, obviously, but I think those are the two ways that I look at it. Yeah, sometimes you want to flip something to help us buy the other stuff that we can't get naturally, or sometimes you want to be first in the door if you really enjoy it, so that when it does go up, you don't have to worry about shelling out the big bucks for it.
Very, very well said. Lisa?
Yes.
We're not skipping you. It's your turn.
Okay. So, spectators, listen up, because this is something that is extraordinarily rare. So there is near us in Winchester, Virginia, there is an amazing Eisner-nominated comic book store called 4 Color Fantasies. And every year they do an auction of sketch covers for literacy. And they've gotten amazing artists for this. They have had Daniel Warren Johnson. They have had Christian Ward. They have had Matt Lesniewski. Amazing people. And they only do the bidding on Facebook, which is wild. But this sketch cover is so near and dear to my heart. So Brad has some examples. Oh, thank God. I didn't know where. I was like, he left me, and he's taking the Harlan Ellison book with him.
No. Okay. So yeah, it's 4 Color Fantasies. Lisa's already set it up.
For literacy volunteers in Winchester, Virginia.
And they do it every year, and they auction off like incredible original art. So it's like a blank sketch cover, but obviously somebody rad has done a sketch on it. Before Daniel Warren Johnson was on Beta Ray Bill, he did a gatefold Beta Ray Bill sketchfold cover that they auctioned off for $600.
Yeah, deal in a steal.
Wow. We could not afford it at the time, but we really wish we had. But there are other titles or other artists that we got original art from that we normally couldn't afford, and we got it for dirt cheap. So for $20, I think this is $20. Mm-hmm. It wasn't much more than $20. For $20, I got this original art piece of Batman in the Shadow, illustrated by Jeff Lemire.
Look at that.
Oh,
wow.
Like awesome. Crazy, right? Here's a Batman Steve Lieber.
Oh my God. And this is just literally full, like they did the entire cover.
They did the entire cover. Look at this. Scott Morse, who works for Pixar now, did this Conan the Barbarian.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Oh, that's awesome.
I think this was $50.
Yes. So
Matt Bors did this Spawn. Matt Bors.
4 Color Fantasies. Awesome. They are in Winchester, Virginia. They do this. It's an annual thing. Eric goes around collecting these covers from these amazing artists. And there is one sketch cover that is so amazing and so rare because it was drawn by me, and I'm not an artist. So there's not very many things drawn by me. In fact, this is the only cover I've ever done. And it was sold to a gentleman named Anthony Latch. His family owns Piggly Wigglies, and they're doing quite well. and he got it for $70. And so here's my sketch cover. It's on my phone. You can't see it, so I'll describe it. It's Batman, but he's put on his bat suit backwards. So the back of Bruce Wayne's hair is sticking out of the mouth part.
The cowl, yeah.
Yeah, sticking out. And then of course his cape is on his front. And then he's posing, he's doing a cute little pose with his little booty out, and he's saying, "Look, Alfred, I'm back, man." And then you can see just slightly off cover, Alfred, he's dropped Bruce Wayne his master's beverage because he is doubled over with laughter.
So, as part of that charity auction, Lisa's cover sold more than the Jeff Lemire one that we got.
It did. And Anthony got it for $70. But can you imagine how much it's going to be worth? So you should be looking to see if Anthony ever sells his copy, because it's going to be worth millions. Because I'm never going to do it again because I don't have time.
This auction's going to happen again in 2024.
Yes.
And, we'll definitely promote it on Comic Book Couples Counseling. But, it is the best place to get the best deals on original art. Now, those prices have gone up. You're not going to get a Jeff Lemire again for $20 to $30.
Because we keep, like dummies, promoting it.
Yeah.
Which we shouldn't be doing if we want to be able to continue to afford them.
You're doing it for the right reasons.
It is for literacy.
Yes, it is for literacy. They raised, like $7,000 last year.
Yeah.
But they get like Steve McNiven, and they get like Umberto Ramos, and
I feel like you're undermining. They get Lisa Gullickson. And it's like the best kept secret in comic book art collecting. But not for long. So you should guys should really get in on these covers. They're amazing.
For sure.
Well, so you said that they do it annually. Is that coming up?
Yeah, it's coming up. I think it's in the spring. If you ask me on Twitter at Mouthdork or at CBCC Podcast, I'll have the exact dates for you. And Jake and Jesus, I'll let you know the moment I get
please do.
Dates. Yeah.
Thank you. Lisa, that cover that you described, which we weren't able to see, I hope that you take this as a compliment. It sounded like a Scotty Young cover to me. I totally could see that being a Scotty Young cover.
If only I had that kind of style.
And talent.
It is clever.
My skill set is limited, but he is wearing his stocking. He is wearing his socks, and his little leg hairs are sticking out. It's very cute. I will retweet it. I will send this photo to you guys, and then you can tweet it if you want.
Yes,
unless you're so disgusted and
that.
Embarrassed at my skills, and then you don't have to share.
No, we would be proud to share that. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I think that's a great speculation, and also really giving the listeners some, listen, if everybody out there, sometimes, I don't know if you're like me, sometimes I have a spouse that will kind of be like, what are we spending our money on today? And occasionally that happens. And if now it's for charity.
Yeah.
Right. I cannot think of, I'm speculating right now that is a better excuse than I have to have it. But both can be true at the same time. So Lisa has provided all of us that option. Let's move on to the final speculation of the day, of the evening, whatever time of day you're listening. And I am going to go with something that kind of, I don't know why it piqued my interest. I think I was having a conversation with my son. We were talking about something that I am not personally a reader, but he said something and it immediately sparked in my brain, I need to research the first appearance of this character or something like that, because I don't know it. And it seems like something that would be very popular. And that is the first appearance of Goku from Dragon Ball Z. This is not in my brain, an immediate like, oh, I know that. And I don't claim to know a ton, but there's a lot of characters that I can rattle off what the first appearance is of. This is not one of them, but a major character. One of the characters that people claim could destroy Superman in a fight, which I still don't actually agree with.
For sure.
Even though I'm not
easily.
Yeah, I see. This is the difference. Hey, Zeus, do you happen to know Goku's first appearance?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, all right, then don't spoil it
You
for
didn't
everybody.
ask me to say it, so I just
So this is now we have briefly talked about uh Weekly Shonen Jump on it
Mhm.
when we were talking about Chainsaw Man about a year ago or so. But this dates back even further to 1984, which is a year I really like for no particular reason. But Weekly Shonen Jump 838. Now, I will say there is something about the Weekly Shonen Jumps that are a little bit, I know the numbering is off or because they're weekly and they've been doing it for so long. So I'm trying my best. The cover of this has so many numbers on it. So I believe it is 838, but on the cover, it definitely has like the Dragon Ball Z aesthetic and care. I don't know what the character is actually on the front, but the numbers on the front say 170 and then another one says 51. So there's a lot going on here, folks. And I know that this doesn't make it easier for you, but this is the introduction of Dragon Ball Z and the first appearance of Goku. And it is available. It is something you can find. And there are websites that go in great detail into the Weekly Shonen Jumps. And you can kind of pinpoint it, but 838 should kind of get you the approximate, and you can find it through there. But these things are, I'm guessing, very, very popular in Asia, but I don't see a lot of them for sale in America. And they're not always easy to find. In fact, whenever I search them up, my search history still comes up for Chainsaw Man. But you can go out there, not particularly cheap either when you do end up finding First Goku. There is currently a buy it now. There is one on eBay. So this one is saying that it's issue number 51, but it is currently buy it now for $1,047.
Wow. Uh, just a couple things. It's Dragon
Yeah.
Ball, so don't jump on Jake because he put Dragon Ball Z on there. People are very
Yeah.
specific about it, Jake, and I just don't want the haters to come after you. So I'm watching out for you. It's. I mean, I have a history with Dragon Ball, man. It's very controversial, I guess, in some circles because some people don't consider anime. Some people do consider anime. I feel like it's the gateway drug to anime because I think that's where a lot of people start, or a lot of people did start, especially with Toonami coming in and replaying those and the Android Saga and stuff like that. So we don't talk about it a lot, but it has a very, very big following, and I feel like they're just the silent collectors out there because I feel like I mean, you go to any convention, there's the actual Dragon Balls that people sell, and
Yes,
I always see them on day one, and then on Sunday they're gone. So somebody buys them, and they're like $300-400 because they're like really nice, sets, and they're gone.
How do we
So,
know that the cons don't have a rule that they're not allowed to be sold on day 2?
you know what? That's true. We should have asked since we just went to one, Jake.
Yeah, we should have asked them. Why did you take those in? Why? What did you do with all those Dragon Balls?
They made a wish, dude. That's what happens. You make a wish and they disappear again.
So that is my speculation. I do think that is going to live long in this community. Like Jesus was saying at the conventions, Dragon Ball is not going anywhere and the characters are very popular. And the argument of Superman versus Goku will never be officially answered. But I think that the popularity of the character has legs for days. And for that reason, I think that it is a worthy add to any collection or to flip down the road. So that's my spec.
Good one.
All
Good
right.
one.
I think this is the saddest part of every episode. I think we've come to the end.
No.
Brad and Lisa. I know. Oh, I appreciate the collective.
Like an oversized comic. We have made this is people are like, I don't have a bag for the length of this podcast. And yes, guess what? Make room.
This is a little bit of on the longer side, and I appreciate both of you trekking through it. When we have two guests with double the Grail Tales and double the speculation, it can make for a beefy boy on the podcast. But I think everybody will agree This was a lot of fun, at the very least for us.
Yay, we had a great time.
Us too.
Us too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As I said earlier, your podcast really has inspired so much as far as how we've gone about making Spec Tales. And I wanted to reiterate that, and that all of our listeners should definitely, if you're not already, go over and check out Comic Book Couples Counseling. Jesus always hates it when I recommend other podcasts because he wants all of the listens and the hear holes for ourselves. But you know what? Our listeners, they can do both.
Yeah.
They've got 2 ears. They can listen to 2 podcasts simultaneously if they want to.
And I saw today, I think over 200 episodes you guys have, and that doesn't include your Patreon stuff, which is just a huge back catalog. So if you guys do Bag and Board, which I know Brad and Lisa don't, but if you do Bag and Board, you can put that on in the background and listen to them while you're doing that.
I've been told that's
Bag
a
and
good
Board.
activity.
Yes, that's the Bag and Board is the name of Brad and Lisa's Patreon exclusive series, right? No, maybe.
No. It doesn't come up a lot.
Well, regardless, thank you very much. And Brad and Lisa, I know you guys are very active on social media. They are a must follow as well there. But where can the listeners go and follow you everywhere you are active?
You can find us on most social medias, although like I would say, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are where we're the most active, but we've got Threads, we've got Blue Sky. But find us at comicbookcouplescounseling.com. Beyond the podcast, we do articles and reviews, trying to get people to check out that website more often. That would be really, really swell.
www.comicbookcouplescounseling.com. Did we regret that was going to, whenever we have to write down our email addresses, it has to be Lisa at comicbookcouplescounseling.com? And how do you spell the word counseling? I'm not positive.
You just got to spell it right once.
Well, you guys have the great abbreviation that you can lean on.
Yeah, we should have done that, setting up our emails.
Yeah, we should have done that. Yep.
We're here to learn.
Buy more emails.
I'm new. No, but everybody go give them a follow and definitely go listen to their podcasts. Everything from deep dives to some of the best comic book interviews you will ever hear. Jesus and I are constantly saying, did you see who they talked to this week? And it's the best. So congrats to you guys on a great show. And thank you once again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
All you listeners out there, all you spectators out there, if you are still hanging on, thank you so much for listening in. We really do appreciate it. And we will be back again next week. Catch you later.